In this video, we will look at a wonderful study by Vitaly Halberstadt. In this position, white starts and reaches victory. Well, let's see what is actually happening on the board. We have 2 pawns, which means 1 extra. And that seems quite good. But the problem is that the black pawn is very strong and dangerous. It wants to become a queen, and we must figure out what to do about it. So, if you want to find the solution on your own, pause the video. But before I show the correct answer, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. This way, you will not miss many new and interesting chess studies. So, let's move on to the correct solution. Let's first see what happens if we simply try to capture the pawn right away. We go with the king to square d2, with the further idea of going king e3, taking the pawn, and promoting our own passer. Black, of course, will not stand still. He replies king f2, not letting our king reach square e3, and also defending the further path of his pawn. We must push the king further ahead. Black plays king f3, continuing to block our king, and after we reach square d4, we cannot climb higher anymore. And here, we basically have nothing to do. We can play b4, but in that case, black simply starts pushing his pawn with check, and it becomes a completely drawn endgame. Therefore, let's go back, of course. It may also come to mind to try pushing one of our pawns into a queen. If we push our pawn to b4, black of course answers right away with e5, and such a pawn race begins. Our queen appears first, but the problem is that black promotes a queen with check. After any retreat of our king follows another check, and also black attacks the pawn on h2. We have to step back again. The pawn is lost, and it becomes simply an equal endgame, queen against queen. And on the board, of course, it is a draw. So, let's return again. Maybe it looks a bit better for us to push the pawn to square h4, because in that case, after both sides promote to queens, our king steps back, and our pawn on b3 still remains with us. So black cannot win in any way. One may think we will promote it later and win this game. But the problem again is that in this position it is black's move, and he will give endless checks to our king. We cannot escape from this in any way, and it becomes, once again, only a draw. So let's return to the starting position. And here it may seem that we already checked all options. That is, we went with the king to the pawn, we pushed pawn b4, we pushed pawn h4. What else can be invented in this position? Let's move straight to the correct answer. The correct move in this position is to bring the king to square c2. What is the point of this move? Why do we go with the king to c2 and not, for example, to d2? Well, let's now see the difference between these two moves. The move king c2, just like the move king d2, threatens to approach the opponent's pawn. That is, if black does not react at once and plays, for example, e5, we play king d3. And here black cannot stop us from going king e4 and capturing the pawn next move. For example, he went king f2. We play king e4, capture the pawn, and promote the queen. So, as we see, black is forced to react immediately after king c2. He has 2 options, to go king f2, or also to go farther with the king to square g2. What happens if black plays king f2? In that case, we can already start pushing our passers. We play b4. Of course, a pawn race begins. Black has no right to fall behind. After we promote to a queen, black also promotes to a queen. But what is the difference between the positions where our king stood on c1 or on d2? As you noticed, in our case, the queen appears without giving check. And now, white can act under his own rules. In the earlier line, black could calmly give endless checks or capture our pawn. But now we can start checking. We play queen g3, and thus force an exchange of queens. And after the queens are traded, we still have the extra pawn. We push h4, and the king cannot do anything against this pawn. We promote it and reach victory. So the move king c2 was made so that the opponent's queen would appear without check, and we could exchange queens after queen g3. Well, what happens if after king c2, black answers with king g2? One may think that, just like in the previous line, we play b4, but now this move leads only to a draw. And let's see what the difference is. Now, although the black queen also appears without check, we already have no reason to play queen g3, because in that case, black captures our queen and then also takes our pawn. As a result, after promotion to a queen on e1, we cannot force an exchange. And if we cannot trade queens, then, as you remember, the position is only a draw. So how should we act after the move king g2? In this case, the only winning move is to push the pawn to square h4, and now you will see why. This time, black also promotes the queen without check, and it may look like it is still only a drawn endgame. Since we cannot seem to force an exchange of queens, it looks as if black will soon be checking us forever. But in fact, white can still exchange queens. And the hardest part of this study is to understand how white can do that in this position. So we begin, of course, with a check, queen g7. Black must retreat somewhere. If he goes closer to his queen, that only helps us. So he will naturally play king h2, trying to keep the king away from the queen so that we cannot trap the two pieces together. But of course, we keep driving him closer, playing queen h6. Now black has only one move not to lose right away, and that is king g3. If he goes to square g1, then we play queen c1, pin the queen, and force an exchange. And if he goes to square g2, we answer queen d2, giving a double attack on the queen and the king. So naturally, black retreats with king g3. How should we act in this case? Here it is necessary to find the only winning move. And the correct answer in this position is to play queen d6. All other checks lead only to a draw. And let's see why this move is so strong. It may seem that the opponent has a whole sea of retreats, and it looks impossible that every line still forces an exchange. But surprisingly, that is exactly what happens. If black goes to square g2 or f2, we play queen d2 and give a double attack. If he goes to square f3 or to square g4, we answer queen d1, and again comes such a double attack. So black is forced to go either to square h3 or to square h4. In fact, our goal is to drive the king onto square h4. So let's see what happens if black plays king h3. In that case, we play queen d3. Black is again forced to retreat somewhere. If he goes down, then we answer queen d2. If he goes to square g4, then we answer queen d1, another double attack. So, as I said, in the end, black goes to square h4. After this, we play queen d4, and in the end, we get a position where no matter where the black king retreats, we exchange queens. If he goes down, then comes queen c3. If he goes to square g5, then comes queen d2. And if he goes to square h5, we play queen d1, exchange queens, and reach victory. I hope you enjoyed this study. If you really did, then press like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, link is in the description. Goodbye, everyone.